chosen to join me today with the True North Principles that Enhance Company Culture presentation. I'm Karla Brandau. I'm the CEO of Brandau Power Institute, and I've been in the speaking and training business for over 20 years and have done a lot of keynote speaking, a lot of retreats, a lot of full-day programs for companies. And so I am just delighted that I can share some of the things that I've learned over my 20 plus years of working in this industry with each one of you. The first thing I'd like to share with you is this concept of North. And I want you to do this with your people when you go back to your office, okay? The next meeting you have with them, I want you to stand them all up and have them turn around a couple of times. Close their eyes first. I forget to mention that. Close their eyes, turn around a couple of times, and then without opening their eyes, have them point north. And then open their eyes, and you can see that everyone is probably pointing to a different place. And so how this is for us is that we want to align people. We want to align their values. We want to align their true north values, you might say, so that everyone is pointing in the same direction and going the same way. So that's an experiment that you can try. So what is True North versus merely North? And I was giving a presentation and we were talking about True North principles. And someone kind of in an amusing way said, well, what's the difference between True North and North? So I took the occasion to study that because I wasn't quite sure at that time. And I put this actually in the chat for you. If you want to go there, you can search this out because down there where it says Adventure How Stuff Works, that's where I went to learn about what North is. And what they tell you on that side is that North is not exactly the same all the time because it reacts to the gravitational pull of the Earth. So if you're out hiking and you have your compass out and you're thinking you're going north, well, you might be going north, but maybe not true north because that is moving. So how this applies to us in our world is that the landscape that we're in, the marketplace that we're in is constantly moving, and we're constantly having to make adjustments to it. And so how this applies to, you might say, True North is that True North is a principle. It's not a place. It's not a destination. True North is a principle of conduct. It's a principle of virtues and values and ethics. And so when you're founded on those, when you as a person are founded on those, and when your organization is founded on True North principles, meaning, and by the way, you can set those, whatever means the most to you and the most to your company, you want to set those in your values. And when you're doing your mission statements, you want to make sure those are in your values. And so what it means is that you're guided by those, and it guides your ethical behavior. It guides your conversations with people. And what happens is that customers understand this. When you talk to customers, they know that you're founded on principles. And so it's a very important thing for you to be able to understand this. Jim Burke, who was the CEO of Johnson & Johnson, said that without a moral compass, you are awash in chaos. And I thought, I think that's pretty true. So once you set your True North principles and it matches with the company, and by the way, I say it needs to match with the company because when it's matched with the company, then it's going forward. And what I want to make a point here is that if you are an individual and you're not, and you have your own set of True North values, and they don't match with the companies, then there's going to be conflict. There's going to be confusion, and you might want to find a new company. So these True North values are very important for you as well as for the company that you are working for. So the next, I just want to talk a little bit about Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And it's kind of funny because in a way, I think it's funny, but it's really applies to what we're talking about here. Because if you'll remember, in the last of this movie, he's in the room with all of these holy grails. Of course, he has to choose the right holy grail, and he has to be able to fill it with that everlasting water and take it down to save his dad, if you don't remember that. But Elsa and Donovan rush into the room as well. But the problem is there are, 20, 30 maybe holy grails there to choose from. And of course, Elsa goes and chooses the brightest, the most sparkly of the grails, and she dips it in the water and gives it to Donovan. And if you remember, he immediately melts. So now it's Indiana Jones's turn. And he looks around all of these, and then he focuses in on one, and he says, this is the cup of a carpenter. So he chose a very simple one, but it was powerful because it was the right grail, and he was able to save his dad's life. So what I am asking you today is to think of simple, powerful principles, which are true north principles that you can implement in your own life and in the life of your company. And we want to have these simple truths because, let me go to the next slide here, because we need simple, powerful, tried and true leadership skills for 2023, but they need to be with a new twist. And you can see here the twist that I have on these principles. And the reason I say this is because with all of these problems that we're having here, all of the different characteristics that are popping up into our society now and into our teams and into our companies, these can be made less dramatic, or you might say made better, if we use the True North principles. So we had the pandemic, which, I mean, really was disruptive to our whole entire way of life. And so we have hybrid teams now, and companies are struggling with how to handle these hybrid teams. And then they're all concerned about return to the office, but employees are worried about balance of life. They're worried about burnout and well-being. I don't know if you have, if you subscribe to any of the newsletters or you're aware of what's happening in the world of the conversations, you might say, is that well-being is very, very at the front of everyone's mind. And of course, quiet quitting is up there too. That's just another form of disengagement. And you have psychological safety coming into play here. How do we get employees to tell us the truth of what is really happening? Because, the employees know. And then you have 5 generations in the workplace, which we've probably never had. I don't know if that's true or not. And you have the imposter syndrome, or you have people are lacking confidence. So these are all discussion topics that people are having. And when we come back to the simple, powerful, tried and true leadership principles of True North, they can help all of these problems or challenges that we're having in the world now. One thing I'd like to add before I go on is I grew up in the world of music and arts, and I married a man who had been a quarterback. And so I started to learn about football. And of course, I learned about his most beloved coach, NFL coach, who was Vince Lombardi. And Vince Lombardi won so many Super Bowls because he insisted on fundamentals. And the book he wrote was called Run to Daylight. So what I'd like you to do with these True North principles is think about the challenges that you have, and then think about how you can solve those challenges with these True North principles. So True North strategies help you maximize well-being and performance in personal and professional life. And as you do it for yourself, then you can model it for your employees. And that's where they learn the most, is when you are modeling it. So True North programs help individuals and companies make decisions based on values and proven principles. They learn how to handle overwhelming challenges because they have a stable base. They know how to combat exhaustion and how to manage their time and their energy cycles. And they know how to re-engage employees and build resilience. So if you can learn all of these things, then you're going to become the leader that people choose to follow. And that's almost as, I guess we could say it's a sacred trust if they choose to follow you, not have to follow you because you are, quote, the boss. So modules that we have, and by the way, these came from some programs I did for the Veterans Administration last year. And we went through these topics and some of the others, but I brought these to you today because these are modules that we can implement in your companies. Because we talked about honesty and integrity and how in everyday work life that ensures customer loyalty. We talked about how ethics and civility are related to one another, which was a really hot topic. It was well attended. Then we have courage, having the courage to stand up for self, others, and principles. And one that was very interesting that people thought a lot about was charisma and gravitas and how that leads to inspiring leadership. And the reason I say that is because I had one young lady say, well, I don't think you should ever smile. And it's like, no, no, no. Charisma means that you are smiling at people and that you're optimistic. And then gravitas is what you're doing when you have the True North principles inside of you. You're showing stability to them. So that was a very interesting discussion. And then we talked about respect and human dignity and how you should extend that to every employee so that it improves morale. And then we talked about organizational resilience as well as personal resilience. And we talked about emotional intelligence and how that can help you to use your emotional intelligence. And some people say, is that common sense? And I'd have to say, well, yeah, in a lot of ways, it's common sense. But you can build emotional intelligence. And by the way, emotional intelligence is more important to you in your career and your leadership career and the way you connect with people than IQ. EQ, or emotional intelligence, is more important than IQ. So kind of remember that, because the way you treat other people and the way you interact with them is EQ. And that's what makes you the leader people choose to follow. So now you can move the needle in your own life and in the company life if you can use True North programs, because they will increase engagement. And modules that we can put together for you here is that how to earn the gift of discretionary effort, which is the title of my book, and strategies to quell quiet quitting. Those are related, okay? And so you have to ask yourself, where do companies place their main focus? Is it sales? Is it products? Is it the bottom line? I had a CEO tell me one time that he knew how to read the balance sheet. And he had a lot of people problems. And I thought, well, are you looking at the people who create that bottom line? Because Gallup research, which, they do all this research, and I think everybody quotes Gallup, says that companies with high engagement experience 3 desired outcomes. Is 10% increase in customer loyalty, wouldn't you like that? 18% increase in productivity, and 23% increase in profitability. That tells you why we need to improve engagement. And so to improve engagement outcomes, you improve the touch points. And I like that word, touch points, because what we're doing here is we're improving the way the manager interacts with the employees. And that's why I had you to go to earnthegift.com /app, because you can put in there, it's a little program that you can put in how many employees you have and what their median salary is and how much you think they are disengaged. And then it can tell you how much you're losing every month to disengagement. So it is a bottom line issue. And I don't know if we hear so much about people leaving companies, and I love this little picture and this quote because it says, what do you mean the grass isn't greener over there? No, the grass definitely is not greener in other companies, okay? But because everyone has the same problems, I like to say that. Now, it may be greener depending on who you are and what you have, what you're going to be doing in that company, but companies have similar problems. In fact, I was just speaking to a man in human resources who came out of the car industry and went into healthcare. And he said, yeah, the problems are the same. Everybody has problems with processes and they need them improved. So if you have noticed employees that seem to be on the cusp of leaving, showing some discontent, then you can improve those touch points with them, which means that you're interested in their assignments. You can ask them and check in with them and remove blocks to the performance or to the deadlines. You can encourage their personal growth. You can extend encouragement to them. because remember, encouragement is something you give all along the way, where praise is done at the end of an assignment. So encourage them, and that is a touch point. So True North programs increase employee sustainability. So the question is, have we reached an era where employees should be placed ahead of customers? I think that's a question. And some people don't see that taking care of your employees is taking better care of your customers. They're the ones that take care of, and I put this in yellow, the second most important customer, and those who purchase your products and services. So if you're looking at this, I would recommend a book by Vineet Nayar, who is an Indian executive. He turned HCL technologies around, and he made them dominate the technology management world. And this is his book, Employees First, Customers Second. It's a fabulous book, and I recommend that you read it. Because that's how he turned it around, was just making his employees first. So you have employee first strategies that help you focus on those you lead. Their personal growth, we mentioned that. Productivity, how are they doing? Their well-being, while you're still keeping the eye on the needs of the team and making tough decisions that may not be popular. You see, in the very first, when we were talking about true values, we said that you had to have the courage. You had to have the courage to stand up for what was right. And sometimes there's going to be conflicts there. But if you want to help your employees, you want to give them a sense of purpose. You have to let them know that what they're doing contributes, and it's important for the company to go forward, and what they're doing has meaning. It's not that you're not just giving them busy work. You've got to show them the purpose and the way it fits in with the company goals. And do they have what they need to do their jobs? Do they have the right hardware? Do they have the right software? Do they have the right equipment? Do they have all of that? And you need to check with them and see. And can you support them through personal challenges such as illnesses? And sometimes they'll have emotional issues. It doesn't mean you're going to become their psychologist or their counselor, but you can be there and support them in these things in soft ways, I guess I could say. And can you make the employees feel heard? By the way, listening is the most important soft skill I think that you can have. Because if a person has some challenges that they're going through, or they're going to have trouble meeting the deadline, if you can at least listen to them and help them through that, then they will be more inclined to stay and not sharpen up that resume. Now, True North strategies help you know what to do when employees don't respond to your leadership style. So these modules include meeting management and consensus building, which comes from facilitation skills. We have a wonderful program on that. But there's so many times in meetings that if you had a few ideas on how to build consensus and not just take the word of the loudest person in the room, then you're going to find that people are getting along better and they're listening to each other. So we talk about managing conflict and how you have communication skills. And one of the things I talk about here is a crash. Because so many times when we're just walking down the hall or in an online meeting, someone can, quote, crash you, meaning they don't really agree with what you're doing. And people need skills. They need skills to handle those situations. And that's what we teach. So True North principles also give you resilience. And we want to talk about personal resilience, and we want to talk about organizational resilience. So some of the problems we have with resilience is that we scramble to do more with less, and when we're time bound with these deadlines and things, when the next bullet point there says, "Are you stretched with limited resources?" Yeah, we all are. Okay. Are we struggling with inclusivity in our organization? Do we find it hard to balance employee mental health with progress and process? And I think this relates to you as individuals too, because can you balance getting all those deadlines met at the same time your own personal mental health and wellness? Yeah, it's really a balance there, and you have to learn the skills for resilience. So some of our modules include enhancing resilience and bounce back ability. Les Brown, the great motivational speaker, said, if life knocks you down, which it all does, we all get knocked down, okay. He said, if life knocks you down, try to land on your back. Because if you can look up, you can get up. And I thought that's really good advice. And I think of that a lot when disappointments come or when technology breaks down, it doesn't quite work. So we talk about resilience and bounce back ability, and it goes hand in hand with modules on all stressed up and nowhere to go, how to handle your stress levels, because stress levels are amazing in today's world, and they come at you from all kinds of directions. And so you need the skills for, and they go along with bounce back ability and handling your stress. And then one of the unique things that I have done, coming from my music background, as I told you, is that I have a program called Harmonize Your Life and How to Live in the Moment. And I use musical principles there that, and then I don't know if you know anything about music, but you go to the C, E, G chord and you have people harmonize. So C represents your work that you have to do to live. You have to work. Me represents taking care of myself. And so represents the relationships that you have. So the C, or the do, mi, so, we go back to the solfege. And then when people harmonize, they learn that there's a lot of ways that they can harmonize their life, not really balance it, because balance means one side is up and one side is down, basically. And so I don't agree with that. I'd rather have you harmonize your life. So True North principles for employees. Now, as you can see, this is kind of a bridge because we talk about the company having True North principles as well as individuals having True North principles. And the True North principles for individuals really help guide their life as well. So now the personal effectiveness of employees. So when they have True North principles, it's critical to employee mental health and to the success of the organization. So True North principles help individuals realize their full potential. And what I'd like to say here is that if they can learn to think of themselves as corporate athletes, then they take a new perspective. Now, I bring up athletics again because, on the football team, they work really hard for 6 months, or the baseball teams, and then they're off for 3 or 4 months. And but we're on all the time as corporate athletes. So what we need to do is learn from athletes about what they eat, how they rest, how they handle emotional problems, how they hydrate their bodies, because these are all important things for us as corporate athletes to take care of. So True North principles of professional growth means that we have strategies to build our self-confidence as a leader and as a person, and that should be a top priority for you. So some of the modules that we have for True North principles are the DISC and driving forces assessments, emotional intelligence assessments. We teach time management. We teach professional presence and how to have charisma and gravitas. So True North assessments and certifications, we're going to have a series coming in February of Trusted True North Leadership Certification. And we have a certification process for the DISC and driving forces the end of January and February 2nd. And then we have a discretionary effort leadership certificate also that's coming in March. And we handle the EQ. I use the multi-health systems, emotional intelligence, and we also do 360-degree feedbacks. So these are all things that you can use to help yourself and to help your team know each other better and learn how to handle your emotions and learn who you are. So True North principles get individuals to the finish line, is what I'd like to say, because self-management is not a passive activity. It's not a passive art. So we want to increase our feelings of self-esteem and decrease feelings of victimhood. Okay, I run into that a lot. Les Brown doesn't believe in victimhood, by the way. You align with company vision, values, and long-term objectives, and you take ownership for your assignments. Then you train like an athlete for better health and wellness, and you understand and manage your daily energy flow. You identify what can be controlled and what must be accepted. You demonstrate initiative and solve problems with creativity. And I must say that when I started learning about creativity principles, it made a huge change in my life, because I learned that there's several ways, if you're creative, that you can find to solve problems, not just one way. So I love that discussion. And then, of course, you use emotional intelligence principles when you're interacting with your team members. So True North programs create positive change in the organization. And I liked this picture because, see, this gentleman has a problem. Don't we all have problems? And then he's thinking, using creativity, what can we do? And he gets an idea. And then it's like, yes. So what I like here is that James Allen said, you cannot travel within and stand still without. And what this means is once you start implementing these, choosing what you want to do, I've given you a lot of ideas here, a lot of ideas on what you can do in your organization. I would recommend that you choose one or two of these to start on in 2023. And when you do that, you're going to be in this process of generating ideas and saying, what can we do? How can we make this work? Then you're going to get ideas, and you are changed. You are changed forever. You can never go back. And by the way, anytime you have training, people are changed and they go back to the office, and it's like, the other people in the office don't know they've changed. And it takes courage to stand up and say, yes, I have changed. So this is the process, and it improves you and it improves your organization as well. Now, Victor Hugo, who's a French author who wrote Les Mis and wrote The Hunchback of Notre Dame, he said, I think I put that on there right. There is nothing stronger than all the armies in the world. There is one thing stronger than all the armies in the world. Let me read this right, sorry. And that is an idea whose time has come. And so I think that this is a true principle that if you will go back to the fundamentals and look at the new twists and challenges of the 2023, if you can look at those in the light of True North principles, you're going to be amazed at how the stability that can come from True North principles will help you with all of the confusion that you see in the marketplace and in your employees. Now, I just threw this in here. I found this on one of the sites that I get pictures off of, and it was 10 ways to create a positive work environment. So I put this so that you can download it. It's IKT, and as you know, that means I knew that, but it's like, am I doing it? And so you can take this graphic and you can download it and say, well, let's see, what am I going to do for each one of these things? So the True North principles definitely help you build trust. And when you learn the strategies that we teach you to communicate positively and openly, that helps people surface the truth. It helps their psychological safety. And you have to expect your staff to perform well. You have to expect them to turn in quality work. Then you can create team spirit. You can give recognition and appreciation. Remember, praise is something that's done at the end, but encouragement, recognition, and appreciation is done all through their assignments. Then you give credit and you take responsibility. You be approachable to them. You provide a positive work environment, and you make staff evaluations a positive experience. And I would just like to kind of wrap things up here by saying that your staff, we're coming to the end of the year, and I don't know if you have your performance reviews now, but I recommend that in 2023 in January that you start looking at your performance reviews and you think about what you want to talk to that person about in 2023 and set their goals. Because to me, a performance review is what you do it's those touch points, so that when it comes down to the performance review, it's just a great discussion about what the employee did that year and where the employee is going to go the next year. And by the way, you can make it fun for them. And everyone has perhaps a different idea of what fun is, but you can make it fun for them. So True North strategy programs are with a combination of live presentations, retreats, and webinars. I can do all of those for you, our company can. And they can be customized for executives, managers, supervisors, and teams of employees. So we look forward to a complimentary consultation with you. And I can create a custom program for you. If you go back and you say, well, I want this module and this module and this module, I'm really good at doing that for you. So you can call me for a complimentary consultation. You can email me, or you can go to my website, or you can talk to me on LinkedIn. So I don't know if you have questions now. We've come to the end of our 30-minute webinar. I'm going to turn the chat on. And if you have a question, you're welcome to ask that question. And don't forget to go to the files and download that leader 10 ways to have a positive work environment, because you can share that with your team. So in the chat, what is the one thing that you will take out of here? Or are there one or two things that you're going to take away today that you will implement with your team? If you'd like to comment on that, it would be great just to see what the aha moment was that you had. I'll give you a minute to think about that. Because it's always a joy for me to be with people and to talk about these principles and to see their eyes go, oh yeah. And especially if we can go back to this, I knew that. See, we know this, and we understand these things, but it's like we get so bogged down in the tasks. We get so bogged down in the deadlines. We get so bogged down in some of the conflicts, some of the things we have to negotiate, that we totally forget some of these things, especially to encourage people and to give them recognition and appreciation, because everyone has challenges. And I'll just end with this one little story here. I was in the mall yesterday looking for Christmas gifts, and I couldn't find the store I was looking for. And a person who worked at the mall, this young lady, said, well, what are you looking for? And she quickly went to the directory and found it. And she said, you go, and she was trying to point it out. And then she said, oh, let me take you. And I thought, what a wonderful young lady. And so as we're walking along, I thought, this young lady has everything under control. And then as we're walking along and having a pleasant conversation, I said, well, you're just such a wonderful person. Thank you for taking me here. And she says, oh, yeah. And then she proceeded to tell me that she was pregnant and having morning sickness, that she was. And I thought, this person is a wonderful employee. She's helping me out, even though she's not feeling her best. And so I wished her well with that pregnancy and with that new baby. And she was so excited about it. So with that said, if there are no questions, no comments, I'm going to open the chat again and see if there's any questions. I don't see any. So I'm going to close this session today. And I just appreciate everyone coming and being part of this. And be sure to send me a note or write me an email and tell me how you enjoyed this and what the most important thing was for you. I've got one thank you in there. Thank you very much for that. And I love what Kim said too. It was summer just a minute ago, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. And pretty quick, it's going to be January and Christmas will be all gone. So enjoy the holidays. Thank you for coming.